I think a lot of my motivation stems from my mother. Although my mother, when I was, a teenager, worked at Tyson Foods here in Arkansas, and she said to me one day, "You're going to work here." And I said to her, I was like, "I'm not going to work here. Like, I have bigger dreams and bigger plans." I understand how that offended her, but I didn't mean it. It wasn't intended to offend her. It was intended to just show her that I have goals and dreams and things that were outside of the radius of Hope, Arkansas. And that was hard for her to necessarily understand, but what she doesn't understand is that she put that mindset in me. Because my mother has been one that has always tried to have like these goals to strive and to go. To come from El Salvador, to not have an education, to not have a lot of opportunities presented to her, to not having a family that supported her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I learned that from her. I saw on television, people that would come from nothing or from limited and would create for themselves and their families. And I just said to myself, that's what I want. That's what I want to do. Those are the things that I want to achieve as well. Mr. Chopra, this fence wasn't here before. I remember one day when I picked her up from work, she came out and she said, one day you're gonna work here, but you're not gonna work in the same position as me. You're gonna own this place. That's what she said. And my response really quickly was, I'm never gonna work here. Never gonna work here. I'm gonna do other things in my life. And she, of course, naturally, was insulted by the comment. She was, she was insulted by the comment, didn't like the comment, but I didn't intend it to be disrespectful because I understood that's what was providing that job. And for her, as someone in her country in El Salvador, to have a third grade education in another country and not speak English that well, that was a huge, incredible accomplishment. But for me, I just had this other intention, idea that I want to do something else in my life. But that's what provided this job. And for her, that was an incredible accomplishment. And it was to become a supervisor. She to be in a position of authority when her whole life she never, that authority, that power was taken away from her because of the things that she experienced and the things that happened to her at a young age. That was an incredible accomplishment. But for me, I was also born in the United States, so no, that's not good enough for me. And you can look at it both ways. You could say, okay, you know what, that's a great attitude to have. But you can also look at that and say, well, that's a component of maybe to some degree kids not necessarily understanding and not appreciating. Luckily for me, I meant it more from an intention of, I had bigger dreams. I knew there was a whole big world out there that I could actually go see and experience, and I wanted to. I wanted to see that world. But this place and this world helped me prepare for that world. It really did. And so coming back now, having now achieved a lot, what it does is it gives me a deeper appreciation for what I have. Because the stuff that I have now, it's bigger and better than I ever had here. And it's not purposely done. It's not like I'm trying to outdo what I had. It's just now I'm just living. And sometimes I think all of us get caught up in this cycle of where we don't appreciate like what we have, because we only have one perspective, one viewpoint. And so coming back and seeing the conditions of the homes that I lived in, obviously they've changed over 18 years, but in many cases it's still similar to what they are now. It gives me a deeper appreciation of what I have now and what I'm able to provide for my family. This is my childhood. This is what it was. And for the moment, it was like fine. It was okay because I didn't know any better. So when kids, when I have the opportunity to speak to kids who are in troubled areas and feel as if there's not a lot of opportunity, etc., I can relate to them. And I say to them all the time, listen, like, you may not think so because maybe I don't act a certain way or speak a certain way now as an adult, but I was exposed to the very things that in many ways you're being exposed to right now. When I moved to Hope, Arkansas, it was predominantly white and black. I wasn't black enough, I wasn't white enough to hang out with those crews because I was one of the first Hispanic kids to be here. And then there were more Hispanics that started to show up, and I wasn't Hispanic enough to hang out with them. And so I literally was on the outside looking in. What do I do? Where do I go? So to those kids that I always have the opportunity to speak to and love the opportunity to speak to, I'm like, your beginning, the way your life begins, doesn't have to be the way your life ends. You have a choice. You do, even though it feels like you don't, you do. And how oddly enough, we're pulling up to train tracks. What are they carrying? Military vehicles. One of those Humvees, similar to that one right there, is the one that I actually almost lost my life in. You couldn't direct that any better. Couldn't plan that. All of these vehicles right here, either coming from combat, getting ready to go to combat, getting ready to deploy somewhere. And a Humvee similar to that one right over there. The one that looks like that Jeep truck, except it didn't have kind of that bed. It just kind of looked like a traditional Humvee. That's what I almost lost my life in. That truck is the truck that I was driving that day on the 5th of April of 2003 when I almost died. How many kids probably can walk around this community and say that place right there, that intersection, that park, that's where I almost died. Breathless, beautiful eyes, breathe. That's the name of those tanks. There's plenty of possibilities and opportunities and things that'll challenge you in life. I'm standing here at this intersection of essentially my life, of what my childhood was, and then what my period in my life was in the military. I've never been in the place at an intersection where they've crossed, where I've actually can see it. And now I'm here as an adult with different eyes and as a survivor and as a success story. As I walked around the school, as I drive around the community, and I see a lot of the teens that kind of have this demeanor of whatever, this is my life. What I want to say to them, and what I say to those kids watching right now, that maybe it's not Hope, Arkansas, maybe it's another part of the country, another part of the world. What I say to you right now is that the way your story begins does not have to be the way your story ends. That is on you. This is the way my story, my life began. But I didn't want it to end this way. I wanted to break cycles, break trends, and I had to do unpopular things. I had to do things like decide to join the military. I had to do things to face a lot of my fears when people ask me to try out for opportunities, and I thought, well, I'm not trained, I'm not qualified, why am I going to attempt that? And I did it, and it led to incredible opportunities. So what I say to you right now, that you feel incredibly hopeless and helpless wherever you are, is to understand that you have a choice, that you have an incredible opportunity to do something that a lot of people in this world don't get an opportunity to do. They don't have an education, don't get an opportunity to pursue an education, don't have an opportunity to have a roof, don't have an opportunity to just go get something to eat. You have that. What I say to you is like, be bold. What are your dreams? What are your goals? Ask yourself the question, are you happy where you are? What elements of where you are that you're happy about? What elements of where you are you're not happy about? And the ones you're not happy about, change it. Change it. Make a decision. Pick something. Go with it. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, why are you doing that? Don't go for that. Don't do that. And that's okay. They can watch you from where they are, but you be the one that's going to go to those places. You can come back one day and tell them what it was like. You experienced it. Every day I try to live my life, and I think about me being an old man and sitting on that front porch one day, and am I going to be the old man that's going to say, I wish I would have, I wish I would have, I wish I would have? Or am I going to be the old man that's going to say, I did. I tried. I saw. I experienced. I touched. I tasted. I felt. You have that choice. Instead of focusing on other people and they should change their ways and they're not presenting opportunities to you, forget about those individuals. You go out and create it yourself. I created the life and the career that I have today, not necessarily due to one particular individual that's here in this community in my childhood. I went out and did it and seeked it. I stepped outside of my comfort zone. I stepped outside of my box. Are you willing to do the same thing? Because if you're not, you have nobody to blame but yourself.